In today's video, we're going to be taking a look at the Type 11 LMG, a weapon that was released with Chapter 6 alongside the Solomon Islands and is readily available through just a little bit of levelling up through Chapter rank. Now, I've tried in this video to get slightly longer clips because sometimes I know during these reviews people don't really get the right impression of a weapon, as content creators, including myself, will chop up clips and only show you the best bits. So I've tried to include clips with a lot of kills but slightly longer clips, so a fairer interpretation of what the weapon's good at. Now, this Type 11 LMG is in fact entering a class of weapons that is full to the brim with mediocre LMGs. There are a few that you can use that are good, but most of them, since the TTK changes, aren't really worth taking over many of the different options you can have in the Assault class, and then definitely the Medic class with the broken Type 2A, which is essentially a handheld LMG for the most part. It is, however, worth using the support class because you gain access to the lunge mine, but not only that, you get hold of a resupply crate which will give you instant access to reuse that lunge mine and obviously still be really useful for your team. I'd say that if you're looking to get hold of this weapon and level it up, Solomon Islands is probably the best place to do it. I'd say Conquest or Breakthrough attacking. Breakthrough defending isn't so good, but this weapon can be leveled up to Specialization rank 4 pretty simply. It's an okay weapon, but now we're going to get into the details behind the specializations, the statistics, how you should use this weapon, where you should place it in the class, is it worth taking over the notoriously powerful Lewis gun, and is it a weapon that I really think is worth leveling up and using. So let's take a look at the statistics. You do 25 damage per bullet up close, which is a 4-shot kill. That's some quick maths for you. This will then drop off to 13 damage per bullet at around 75 meters though. As with most of the weapons in this game, there is a severe drop off and they're not as good at that medium to longer range as they used to be. Now, I've actually managed to pinch a little screenshot from Simthic just to showcase this in a little more detail for you visually. There you can see the drop off, very similar to a lot of other weapons. I think it's pretty much exactly the same as the Bren gun, so there you go. Now, when it comes to specializations, this is really important with weapons on Battlefield. Sometimes they will start out quite poor, and then with a bit of specialization magic they can become pretty good. So starting out, as you can see, I go full right side, but if we just reset and take a quick look at the specializations, you start out with either slings or swivels or quick aim. Then on the left side you can go for recoil buffer and then the top up reload specialization, which I'll get into in a minute. On the right side, which is where I go, you can go for barrel bedding and then custom stock, and finally you have high velocity bullets and ported barrel. Now, as with most weapons in this game, I do like to reduce horizontal recoil as much as possible to ensure that I'm hitting as many bullets as I can when I'm aiming at the target. Also, your life is made a lot easier when you take a look at this reload specialization that they've called top up. It makes a lot of sense to use something like this because reload time is a very important factor. It's even more important when you consider you only get 30 rounds in the Type 11 compared to some other LMGs that have much more. With a 4-second reload with rounds remaining and a 4.8-second reload when empty, the Type 11 has the longest reload out of any light machine gun in the game. The specialization top up will allow you to add an additional stripper clip if you reload with 5, 10, 15, 20 or 25 bullets remaining. This is a terrible specialization in my opinion in that setup, as you will only take advantage of this on random occasions unless you are really aware of how many bullets you are firing exactly. People won't use this as it's supposed to be used because it's a video game and you forget these things. That means you're going to be doing a full 4.8 second reload pretty much all the time, which why bother using the specialization? Now, I did some testing with this weapon. I don't usually do this for my guides, but I'm going to start doing these in-depth testing sessions really just to see how the weapon performs in a sterile environment like this one. I'm shooting the wall, and as you can see, I've fast forwarded a little bit, but this is without any specializations. I'm not pulling down on the mouse, I'm not controlling the recoil, I'm just ADSing and firing. I don't know, how far away is that, like 5 or 10 meters. Now I'm going to do the same thing but using recoil buffer, which is reducing your vertical recoil, and then top up, which won't change anything in this case. So usually you'd expect to see some reduction in vertical recoil. There's already barely any recoil on this, but as you can see, it's slightly less. The bullets are kind of clumped closer together, there's less jumping between each shot. So that's a definite upgrade that you could potentially want. There is some still side-to-side recoil. You can see it moving up to the right a little bit. So let's reset and see what happens when we put the ported barrel on, which is reducing your horizontal recoil. Maybe we can make that slightly better, and you should see the same vertical length, but maybe a straighter line with less jittering side to side. I'd say that that's a fairly uniform line, better than the one just to its left, and certainly better than the first three that we did. So that's really quite good. Let's go for the right side though and include those other two specializations to improve your accuracy when ADS, standing still and moving. And this should be quite an interesting comparison. Of course, we're losing out on that vertical recoil reduction, but it doesn't really matter because vertical recoil is very easy to control. So there you go. A very straight line, absolutely no impact on your horizontal when looking at the one on the far right side, but you have to remember we have increased accuracy when moving now, which is a great attribute. Now let's take a look at the Lewis gun. Again, I use the 97 round magazine through the specialization tree, and that is without pulling down at the top. It just seems to run out of recoil, which is quite interesting. Very easy to pull down and control, and yeah, look at that. It's a completely straight line for the most part, which is why the Lewis gun is so good. A 97 round magazine, and here's some footage that you can just mag dump. I'm not even that good with it, and I still absolutely laser players at this kind of 40-50 meter range. And then when I get up close, it's still a very capable weapon, as you'll see in a second. Fiel being a map that is really good for the Lewis gun due to these kind of mid-range engagements you often get. A bit of clever positioning and some squad mates, and you'll be able to dominate with this weapon without a doubt. It's kind of the main reason as well why the Type 11 isn't a weapon I'm going to use too much. It's dropping into a support class where the current king is the Lewis gun, and if we compare the Type 11 to the Lewis gun, the damage over distance is identical, the bullets to kill is fairly identical. The Lewis gun has a faster time to kill, assuming you hit all your shots due to the higher rate of fire, with the Type 11 only having a 514 rate of fire, while the Lewis gun has 539. The Lewis gun, if specialised correctly, has nearly 100 rounds, which is way more than the measly 30 rounds you get with the Type 11. And the Lewis gun reload is slightly quicker, far quicker if you have bullets left, which you often will with a magazine of that size. So I'd say really, to sum this video up, why use the Type 11? I don't know if you've noticed as well, but it has this really intrusive box magazine to the left hand side of your screen, which is a pain when you're trying to use a 1x scope. The 3x scope, it's not so bad. Having an intrusive magazine that disrupts your vision when tracking an enemy is not a good thing in an FPS game. You really want to be able to see what you're shooting at all times. Your peripheral vision should be as unlimited as possible. And then finally, somebody said on Reddit, the gun doesn't actually do too much different to other weapons, which is a major problem with new weapons that come to the game. You might be used to a certain weapon that does a good job, so why switch to something new? It really has to do something special. I don't really think I'm going to be using this Type 11 too much over the Lewis gun. I'm just going to stick to what I know. It does a better job, bigger magazine, faster reload, everything that I said before, and the recoil being very easy to control in this current version of the game. There's nothing with the Type 11 that really holds me there to use it. I think it is worth mentioning that when you're using a Type 11 LMG or any similar LMG, running the 3x scope is often the best approach due to the fact that the recoil is easy to control and you gain that advantage over the close quarters medic weapons. I think I've said this in the past as well. You want to be far enough away from all of that CQB rubbish that you can avoid them and then benefit from having a weapon that performs better at that kind of 20 meter range and maybe just beyond it. You're going to be hitting so many consecutive bullets anyway that it's really just worth having that safety net of being a bit further away from those Type 2As. So thanks for watching this video. Do leave your opinions of the Type 11 LMG down in the comments below. If you did enjoy the video, feel free to leave a like. If you didn't enjoy it, again, feel free to leave a dislike. Thanks for watching, and I'll catch you in the next video.